Collaboration is a big part of music production, so today I'll be teaching you guys how to collab on samples. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Circols from the Good Ears channel, and today I'll be teaching you guys how to collaborate on samples. So if you want to collaborate on a sample, you obviously need to find somebody to work with, and a good place to find people to work with would be either Instagram or Discord. And then after that, what you need is a starter or an FLP or a MIDI. What those will essentially do is they'll help you start creating the melody. They'll be the first layer of the sample, and they'll just come in clutch. So I'll be breaking down a sample and how I started it, how I made it. And this sample was a collaboration with XY Nothing. You can follow him, his socials is on the screen, and what he sent me was a piano starter, which I got through Discord, and I'll play it right now. So yeah, that's the starter he sent me, and right now I'll play the finished sample, or what I flipped it into. So here it is. So yeah, that's the sample. So obviously you can hear the piano, it's pitched up, but what I first did was I interpolated it, or interpolized it, I don't know the word, but I pretty much made it into a MIDI, and let me play the MIDI right now. So yeah, that's the MIDI. And what I did was I actually pitched up the sample with a sound shifter. So let me turn it off. And on the piano, the thing has a reel, so it kind of sounds mono. This is what it sounds like. Try. So the first step of collaborating with somebody on a sample is when you get their starter, figure out the chords, figure out the MIDI of it. And that will help you it'll make it easier for you to add other sounds and other layers, because you'll know what key to play in. Such as these other sounds, they're all in the same key. And you could use the ghost notes, because what I always do when I make a sample, I always put it all in one pattern. So like this. The ghost notes will essentially guide you to click or put in the right notes. So I myself, I'm not knowledgeable in music theory, I just play stuff by ear. So it comes in clutch whenever you want to do that. And after you do the chords, you'd want to add other layers, right? So textures, soundscapes, etc. So after I did the piano, I added an extra layer on it, which was some chords with the reverse piano. Because obviously you can record the piano or the chords and then just reverse it manually. But just to make it easier for me, Palace has a sound, and I just use that. And what the reverse does, it pretty much adds an accent, or like it has a texture that you can feel when you hear the whole sample in itself. So after that, I added this sound. So what that does pretty much is ear candy. It fills up the gaps in the sample. So if you want to make a sample, depending what your style is, if you want to make it sound full, reverb helps a lot. And just try to fill in the whole spectrum of frequencies in a sample. And after that, just to add some low end, I use the bass from Analog Lab. It's called the play bass, or play bass, whatever you want to call it. And after that, to add some colors to the sample, I added a bell. So this is what it sounds like. So yeah, that's all cool and dandy. And then after that, this is what I added. I had also violin trills, or trello. Is it a violin trill? I think that's what it's called. So the bell bank, if you're wondering, it's from Kontakt. It's called Mallet Flux, and it's the Celesta. I added some violin trills onto the sample, and it's from the Chris Hine solo violin library. It's pretty good, and it's pretty easy to run as well. So what the bells do, they add color, as I said earlier, and the Kontakt bank, it just adds movement to it. It tickles your ear kinda, because the trill, that's what it sounds like. I don't know if that makes sense, but you can feel it. Alright, so after that, to make it more like, to make it pop more, I added some trumpets, and the library I used for this was Swing More from Project Sam. It's, if you need like jazz sounds, that's the bank you need. So this is what it sounds like. It's fire as hell, man. So I'll go through processing once I finish listing all the sounds. So after that, I added, I think it's like it's a one shot from XY Nothing's conceptual kit, and what this does, it adds some ear candy as well. So yeah, so some advice if you want to get better at sample making is use textures, use sounds that have movement, add sounds that are ear candy, add sounds that fill the gaps in the sample, pretty much. After that, I added this sound, which actually, let me play it first and then I'll explain where it's from. So that sound sounds like a wood hit or a rim, but it's actually, I did it with my mouth. I just clicked and I recorded it, and yeah, added some effects to it. And after that, I also added this other texture to the sample. So what that sound is actually ice breaking, like ice being hammered on. It sounded cool, so I put it in. The way I got this sound actually was that I was just accidentally recording with my mic, and in the background some ice was being broken, and it sounded cool because it played on time coincidentally, and I just put it on the sample because it was fire. And after that, I added this sound. So what this sound is, it's my Microcosm. It's a guitar pedal. So pretty much it's a granular synthesizer, or whatever you want to call it. If you want to get a sound similar to it without using the guitar pedal, you could use a Portal by Output. And my light just died. Hold up. Alright, I'm back. I forgot what I was talking about because my light died. But I'm pretty sure I was talking about how to get a similar sound to this. So if you want to get a similar sound, you can use output. You can use Portal by Output, and it pretty much is it does the same thing. You could do more things with it as well, and it's probably like more accessible for all of you because the Microcosms are all sold out and it's crazy. But anyways, after that sound, I used my guitar. So if you want to make your samples stand out a lot, use real instruments. I can't stress it enough because some banks don't sound realistic at all, especially guitar ones, but there are other instruments that banks simulate good enough, like flutes and etc. But yeah, I played this guitar. So when I first began making the sample, this was one of my like first sounds that I focused on after the piano, but it didn't sound good because I didn't tuck it in. So I'll play the first stage of the sample because I sent it to XY, and this is what it sounds like. So as you can tell, it doesn't sound good because I didn't mix it properly when I was making it, and then I just noticed I should have just tucked it in, and I did, and it's pretty tucked in now. So after I added the guitar, I added this, which is pretty much the same guitar. I just sped it up. I cut it in half, and then I just stretched it to 1 bar, and yeah, this is what it sounds like. You could barely hear it, or you can't even hear it at all, but it's there, you can feel it. So when I was making the guitars and the microcosm, I used automation clips, and the reason why I used it is because they add movement to the sample. They help make those elements come and go, which does wonders. As you know, Connie says silence is an instrument, and this is pretty much how you use silence. You silence certain parts of the sample and make certain parts pop more. Alright, so after that I added this, which I think is this guitar reversed. So let me play it. Also, you can't hear it much, so it pretty much does the same thing as the reverse piano, but it's guitar. And after that, one thing I like to do a lot in my samples is reverse the beginning, the end, and like the middle parts of the sample, like around here, oops, around here, and around here. So I reversed it and I aligned it to the part where it's at in the sample. So this is pretty much this part of the sample reversed. This is pretty much this part of the sample reversed. And what this does, it pretty much leads onto that part. So let me play it. So you can hear it a little bit. It kind of sounds like Filter Freak, one of the presets, but you could do it manually right here. And after that, I added some vocals. I added one. I was gonna add more, but I didn't like the way it sounded, so I just removed them and just use this one, and then I reversed it as well. So this is what it sounds like. So yeah, this is the original sound. Let me play it. Yeah, I pitched it up, I reversed it, and boom, and I used some plugins on it. So after the vocals, I added a guitar lead because the upper end of the sample seemed empty. So I pretty much played the guitar, and yeah, I just put it in there. This is what it sounds like. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I just added this reverse thing. This is just this thing reversed. So this thing is the same thing as this. I just pretty much stretched it out, or stretched it down, whatever you would call it. And I used some effects on it and just made it sound different. So here, just to add some like something that catches your ear, I added this halftime, and it just sounds crazy when you hear it. Like, so what that does, I just pretty much automated a halftime just in case the listener gets bored. That thing's gonna pull them back in. So yeah, and whenever I make these samples, I always like to end it on the first chord. Look, just so it ends properly, because sometimes I don't like it when it doesn't go to the tonic chord. I know I said I don't know much about theory, but I know a little bit. So I just, whenever I make my samples, I like it to end on a good note, like, oh, it's finally over, blah blah blah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And yeah, those are all the sounds I added. So some key tips if you guys want to make better samples or make better collaboration samples is to figure out the key and the chords of the starter, and after that layer it with other chords over the same chords, just with different sounds to make it more ambient or more fuller. And after that you could do whatever. You could add texture, you could add color to it, you could add some movement, and yeah, that's pretty much it. My goal with my sample is to make them sound full. I know some people don't like it, but you could always go to a different sample maker, right? Different people are good at different things, and this is what I think I'm good at. And yeah, so now I'll go over the plugins. So when I did the piano, I used an EQ, obviously, just to get rid of the lows, some reverb to make it sound fuller, and reels. Reels is pretty much like RC20 on crack, I think. It makes it sound like it was ran through an actual tape machine, and you could select the tape type you want. You can select ducking, some flutter, some harshness, which is like saturation, the hiss noise, some echo, some like tape stop, etc. And yeah, that made it sound more vintagey. And on the like soundscapey sound I just pretty much EQ the lows. I used reverb on it, low filter just to make it sound more muffled, then EQ again because it had some low end when I used the low filter, and then I EQ'd the annoying frequencies. So on the reverse piano I pretty much used Panman to pan it around the ear. It's lagging right now, it's not that slow, but yeah. And so a tip for your samples is pan stuff around. You could, like here I pan the guitar around, the violin, the brass, or you could pan it with some auto pans like Panman, Panomatic, Pancake, etc. And for the bass, I just use a light EQ, not really light. I just use an EQ to get rid of the high end, some decapitator to add some oomph to it, you know, to add some like color to it. And then I use some EQ again to get rid of some of the high end that was introduced back with the decapitator. And then with my mouth click, I use Delay Eternity, which is pretty much an analog tape emulator from Arturia, and it just sounds cool. I used the basic pan preset. I use limiter just to compress it. That's pretty much what I used it for. And then reels again to make it sound like more vintagey, if that makes sense. And then EQ, I think I used the radio or old telephone preset, and what that does, it pretty much makes it sound like it's coming from a radio. Yeah. And Fruity Balance, I like to automate the volume with Fruity Balance. You could obviously automate it with the volume knob on the mixer track, but with Fruity Balance you can automate it without affecting the actual volume of the channel. So what that means is that you could add another plugin on top of it, and it could also affect that sound. So when you automate the volume knob and you put it all the way down, you're not going to hear anything else, even if you put another plug on top of it. So that's why I use Fruity Balance. For the ice breaking, just use the old telephone, I think, or radio, whatever it is. So yeah, my Microcosm, what I added was Panman to pan it around, Fruity Balance to automate the volume, and Portal. I know it's my Microcosm is a granular synthesizer, or if that's what you want to call it. Portal is the same thing. I just wanted to add more like texture to it, so I used this preset beneath the foof, and then put the dry knob a little bit, dry wet knob a little bit to the left. I didn't want to make it too wet, you know. Yeah, this one was empty. I forgot what it was. Oh, okay, here I think I added vocals, but I removed it, so this channel was unused. And here for the bells, I use Segment, which is a crazy underrated plugin. Pretty much is a it says right here a delay unit, but it does way more than that. It pitch shifts, it does delay, reverb, I think, some LFO, some modulation. I don't really understand it, I just use the presets, but it's crazy. Let me show you some. It had some whatever this is called, some for bussing, for chorus, for delay, distortion, dynamics, flangers, FX, phasers, whatever, saturators. It does it all. So this is some secret sauce plugin putting y'all on right now. And after that, for the guitar thing that I put in the background that I layered down, I use Sound Shifter, which I just pitch it up an octave up, and I lowered the mixer knob just to make it like quiet, if that makes sense, to make the pitched up guitar quieter. And then half timed it a little bit, but I also reduced the mixer knob just so you can hear it a little. And after that, I used an EQ just to get rid of the lows and some of the mids that were too loud. And here's another sauce plugin, Soothe. So it pretty much is, it's like an AI plugin. It uses AI to get rid of the harsh frequencies. So I use this because the guitar has some annoying frequencies around the mid end, so I use it to remove them. And then EQ to get rid of some of the high mids. Fruity Balance again to automate it. And on top of that, I use the vintage preset from Reels, and used, I think this was a radio thing again, or the telephone, but I just moved this knob more to the left. And for the guitar texture that I did with my Microcosm, I think I half timed it 1/8 though, just so it hits the right notes, I think, but it's like pitched down. And then I EQ'd like most of it, just left some of the low mids, and then I use Vari Speed, pretty much like it's like the delay thing, an echo, a plugin. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's crazy. That's also some secret sauce, whatever you want to call it. So on the violin, I use Echo Boy. It's just pretty much a delay. I use the reverse drummers preset, and on top of that, I added Filter Station. So it essentially is a sidechain plugin, but I also use it to like get rid of some of the frequencies and to make some frequencies louder. And I just made the mids a bit louder from the violin to make it pop more in the mix. And I also EQ'd the low end and got rid of some of the harsh frequencies that came up when I used Filter Freak. And let's see, for the trumpet, use Reels again, make it sound vintagey, but I put a bunch of reverb on it, just make it sound like full, like it's in a different room, like it's being played in the same room as all the other instruments. So because most of the instruments have reverb, so just to make it sound like it's all being played in like in a concert hall or whatever, I put reverb on the trumpet. And for the XY Nothing one shot steel drum echo, I used EQ. I EQ'd I think this was the telephone preset again, but I moved it more to the left and I stretched it up and made it wider. And I just made the like upper bass and the mids a little bit higher, a little bit louder. And then I use some vintage verb again, and then delay with Echo Boy. And so for the reverse sound that I used, this one, I used Love Filter just to get rid of some of the higher end that it came with, and I EQ'd the low ends and more of the high end again, just so it doesn't like pop too more. I just wanted to be able to be felt when you're listening to the sample. And for the vocal, I went off on this, even though it's just like one little sound. I put a bunch of presets. I use Microshift, which is pretty much a pitch shifting delay, and then I use Love Filter just to get rid of some of the upper high end, make it sound more like it's underwater. And then I used Fruity EQ to get rid of the low end it came with, and then I used some reverb again to make it sound like it's part of the concert hall. And then Crystallizer, it is pretty much like Portadust, but just like less like sci-fi-ish, if that makes sense. And then again, I put Discord 4, which is like Microshift but on crack. It's from Audio Damage. It's a pitch shifting delay, and it does much more like reverb, I think, and I love fuzz, filtering, etc. And let me play the vocal. So for the guitar lead, I added reverb again to make it sound like it's part of the concert hall. Vary speed just for some texture and the echo in the background of the guitar. Reels again to make it sound tighter, more vintage. And EQ again just to get rid of the high end, some of the low end. And yet again I EQ'd it again to get rid of the harsh frequencies. So on this guitar, this one, I used halftime because it was too fast without any effects. Look at this, it was too quick, so I half-timed it to make it slower and like lower pitch. And after that I added vintage reverb to make it sound like it's part of the concert hall yet again. Vary speed, it's like some echo, delay, add some color to it. Reels, same preset, vintage, make it sound old. EQ, get rid of the high ends, the low end. This EQ again to get rid of the annoying frequency in the low mids. And then I use Fruity Delay 3 just to make it like pan around as well while it delays. And then I use this thing that changed it a lot. I use the Orb. It's one of my favorite plugins. It's a formant shifter, like an automatic formant shifter, and it wobbles it around. And after that I used Fruity EQ, got rid of the high mids, and that was it. So that's the whole sample. And an important takeaway when making samples is arrange it nicely, because I have a lot of sounds, and if I were to stem it out it'd be like 10 minutes long, so I'm not gonna do that. I just arrange it properly and make it nice, make it sound different across the whole sample. And yeah, that's how you collaborate on samples. Step number 1, figure out the key of the starter, and after that figure out the chords of the sample. And what that will help you with is you can use ghost notes if you don't know theory, and then whatever notes you put in, hit that scale, is gonna sound good. Because I know a lot of you may not know theory, so that's some help for you guys. Just use ghost notes to your advantage. And then another thing for another step is add color. So another step number 3, add some color to your samples just to make it like added emotion to it. Color adds emotion, and that's a very good thing, you know, because some samples just be having triads, no inversions or anything. So use other sounds to help you add color, like the bells for the higher end, some trumpets, etc. Step number 4, add texture. Not all samples require it, but it helps you add movement, like whenever it inspires you to add drums onto it. So like the clicking, I added the ice breaking. It gives you an idea of what type of drums it needs. And step number 4, I think, should be automation clips. Automation clips help you add silence as an instrument, and it helps you add ear candy as well. And last step, importantly, is learn how to process your sounds. So I know it's a bunch of plugins that I use, but it's obviously not that hard to learn it. Some advice I can give you guys is that spend 1 day using 3x oscillator, just making beats with it, samples, and figure out how to process it. Because what 3x oscillator does is pretty much, it gives you like 4-5 sounds that you can work with, like a sawtooth, sine, squares, square tooth, whatever you want to call it. Is that what we call it? Square sine? No, I don't know. But that, and after that you can route into a channel and just figure out the plugins you have, learn them, and yeah, it's gonna help you learn your plugins quickly, because you're gonna know how to toy around with them. And yeah, I think that's it. So if you guys want to support me, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Circols. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel Good Ears, you know. Make sure to purchase on the website goodears.cc. That's also our Instagram at goodears.cc. And yeah, feel free to comment what you guys want to see next, and then I'll make it happen, I guess. Yes sir, let's go. Bye.